us and send it out to our agents, and we're finding most of the viewership is occurring after the call occurs. So I think what we're going to do after this week, I think Jeremy, we discussed that we're going to do these talks after the meeting. So the first 30 minutes, Monday, 10 to 10:30, are going to be reserved for meetings, and then 10:30 to 11 is going to be our fireside chat. So thank you very much. I see John and Mark on the call. Thank you so much, guys.
No problem.
I assume you guys are in Huntsville, but with today, I don't know where you are.
Yeah, we're in Huntsville today. Yeah.
Okay.
We're
great.
part of each other's isolation bubble as well. So.
Good. Well, you're lucky, both of you.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm so happy that you guys agreed to come on, because there's so much I want to talk about. And I know Jeremy has a number of questions also, but I wanted to start by, tell us a little bit about how you got into the business and what made you decide on, I know, John, a big part of your focus is Huntsville. Mark, I know your focus is Muskoka. You moved out there last summer. Tell us a little bit about your beginnings and how you got into the industry.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. And 2008, not the best year to start in real estate, of course, because that's the big crash in October.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first year it was $70,000 invested in marketing and $20,000 in income. So
wow,
interesting first year. We were part of a family printing business and had done that for 20 some odd years, and then just felt like a change. So at 40 years old, changed it up.
Wow. And did you come in together at the same time?
We didn't. No, we'd worked together for probably 18 plus years in the family business. And then John started in 2008. I actually started in 2014.
I needed some help.
Yeah, John needed help.
And good, reliable.
Yeah,
he still needs help.
We're working on that. But no, it's been great ever since we joined together. We were with Royal LePage to start.
Right.
Chairman club there for a couple of years, and then we made the switch and never looked back. So
right. And for the people on the call, it's amazing to me that you guys have been able to achieve north of $1 million worth of gross commission. And frankly, unlike dealing exclusively in Muskoka, where the average price is 3, 4, 5 million, I sign all the trade record sheets, and I see you guys doing deals for 120,000, 300,000, 350,000. So you do everything across the entire gamut. So while you're representing some of the most exclusive homes in Lake of Bays, you're also representing, and I guess through the winter months especially, off-lake properties that are selling in very reasonable price points. How do you manage to market to the entire marketplace?
Well, our marketing, the majority of our marketing is online, website, and since day one, that's where my focus was. The first thing I did before I did any real estate was get my marketing material in good order. Started a new website, and we invest heavily into that website. You probably see that it changes. I don't know if you've noticed it a few times. We're actually, I'm surprised how much we're mimicking your beautiful site that you just created. So
I'm smiling, not because I had anything to do with it. I'm just smiling and saying,
no, but we're very pleased with the last set of changes. Our traffic, we try to drive a lot of traffic to our site through AdWords. We're trying to increase a little bit more with the SEO side of things, because that organic growth is really the best growth you want. So we've got a guy that's helping us with organic growth, paying him a monthly fee to work that side of things. So.
And it's interesting to me to hear that, just because you've come from the printing business, you would think that would be your natural tendency to lean into more of the printed, even though.
I think initially, because my background was graphic design.
Right.
So that was very beneficial as well, creating our own marketing materials and things like that.
And I think we've always marketed to the sort of higher end, house market and the higher end waterfront market. It's just because of that time that we spent in the family business and just being part of the community. We actually, I was born in Scarborough and spent the first 5 years of my life there, but since then we've been here. So the 30 plus years or so that we were in that, we've just got a lot of people know our names. So it's just a lot of the, friends of the family, friends of the parents, all that sort of thing that we're taking care of. So that balances it out quite well.
Right. Just to close the circle on marketing, one of the things that I notice is that people who, regardless of what demographic they belong to at Kalles, I think the assumption is with social, they feel it's catering to the millennials and the younger, but yet we're seeing that computer usage, and especially during this time, is high amongst all categories, including 50, 60, and 70. So I think the natural tendency with social media, especially because we see our kids on Instagram and TikTok and all these sort of quote unquote young elements, it's changing. I mean, I just saw something from Hong Kong where they're selling a sales center site with TikTok videos. You know, I'm not exaggerating to tell you, the other night, my son and I had dinner together and he made a steak. I said, how did you learn to cook that steak? So I just watched on TikTok how to cook a steak. Like, so this is what's happening. Now that does cater to the younger generation, but it goes all the way up. So it seems interesting that you're able to touch the high-end audience who are predominantly a little bit older, north of 50, if you're owning a property north of 2 million for the most part, and you're doing it with social media. I find that intriguing. So, you know, one of the things that a lot of the salespeople ask, and John, you and I spoke about this a little bit offline, is what differentiates selling cottage, specifically waterfront properties, with selling a traditional home off the water, whether it's in Toronto or in Huntsville? What are some of the things that people have to really be wary of?
When it comes to recreational properties?
That's exactly it, waterfront specifically.
Yeah, it's difficult because I think, you know, it may be, and I could be speaking out of turn here, but in Toronto, you know, there's many homes that are the same on a certain street, and probably easier to establish values. And I think up here, there's a lot of experience that's needed for waterfront properties because every exposure is different, every slope to the lot is different, shore road allowances, you know, do they own them, do they not own them? You got wells, septics, heated lines to the lake or wells. I mean, there's just a lot of different criteria that all weigh into values.
Right, and I think, you know, in addition to the value establishment, like what, you know, I'm thinking about water potability and the integrity of the land and the integrity of the buildings on the property. You know, in Toronto, and I'm not simplifying it, but regardless of establishing value, the one thing about Toronto is that you're not going to find a house that's going to be slipping into a river. Do you know what I mean? And I say that sincerely because in cottage properties, you actually do have to consider all of these different things. You have to think about septic, well, potability, the integrity of the buildings, the integrity of the lands, the shore allowances. And that's why one of my most important messages that I'd like to convey on this call, and I'm going to be conveying it again, is the importance of making sure that you refer your buyers to Cottage Country. It's too much, there's too much exposure. If I can tell you the amount of litigation that we've had specifically related to cottage property, it's all related to the things that you're describing right now. And what we found is, you know, I'll give you two, excuse me one second. Of course, my doorbell's ringing. Can I help you? Hi, I'm just on a call. Could you do me a favor and just leave it at the door? Yes. Okay, yes. I'll be to you at 2 o'clock sharp. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was quick.
I guess, you know, I am, even with this virtual background, you know, I'm working it from home. But I would say that there's not just exposure to the salesperson here in Toronto if they handle it themselves, but there's exposure to the company. And that's something we really want to stay away from. I'll just use as an example. So one of our agents, it happens to be my sister Corinne, referred a buyer to Rick last year. Client was looking for Muskoka. The buyer had been working with another agent, but couldn't find a thing. There's nothing that met their criteria. Corinne referred them. They bought a property for 10.5 million. It was off market and the deal was done within 3 days. Now, if that wasn't quick enough, this year, Corinne was speaking with a client, a Toronto client, who was voicing their frustration. They couldn't find anything. They ended up, this is on a Tuesday. The referral went Tuesday at 10 a.m. By 5:55 p.m., a $6 million property was sold. Again, off market. You can't go on the MLS. It's not available. It's only if you know it. And that's one of the things I'd like you guys to talk about is the access to properties that aren't on the market, the quiet properties.
Yeah, and it's just it's boots on the ground too. It's as far as being able to, you know, have seen those properties that have sold, you know, giving your client the knowing the value of what they're buying. It's easy to say, yeah, I feel like it's at a good value, but you know, if you don't have properties in your head that you know that value is correct, then
Right.
you're flying blind. So
Mm-hmm.
a bit of that.
Well, and the market really doesn't start until late May, you know, June, July. So and it runs through till late in October or into November. But there's those other months that you're working with your clients. You know, things that are coming onto the market, but you're not going to be listing that time of year, right? You're going to wait until we've got most of the buyers looking. You know, get the most attraction to that property.
And
so.
yeah, and it's connections and relationships with the agents, because you know we tend to let each other know what's coming to market, that type of thing, because we know who's buying and who's selling the properties, so that goes a long way as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, last week we spoke during the Fireside chat with a mother-daughter team, and now we're speaking to a brother team. How do you guys work with division of labor, and how do you figure out who's doing what, specifically now that you're working in different locales?
Well, it seems to be working quite well. I mean, we both help each other when we can. We've got Steph in the office who's great. We have a new person, Jack, who's going to have his license in a week. So we open every property that we have for every client. So any showing, whether it's ours or not, we'll be out at that property, open it up, turn on the lights, make sure, especially now, to make sure that, you know, families aren't coming with all their kids and running through someone's home that may be living there. So
when we started, Michael, it was I needed some support, right? I was getting way too busy. I couldn't get good help, whatever. So then Mark joined, and then Mark was sort of the buyer rep just for a few years, and I would handle the sellers. So that was how we initially started the separation. And now with Port Carling and with two assistants, we kind of have the assistants doing everything, and Mark's kind of focusing Port Carling area. I focus Huntsville Lake Bays area. And, you know, there's a lot of back and forth. There's, you know, Mark and I have our calendars open on each of our phones. And, you know, if we see a showing coming up and I can't make it, then Mark will run over and open it up, or we're just working. It's working really well.
It is working
machine
well.
having the assistants.
We feel like everything's kind of falling into place with moving to Port Carling last August, because we're always out there. We were there constantly, you know,
no problem with
clients
buyers
and that type of thing. But you have to be there to be in it. You have to know and kind of, you know, walk around and just talk to people, and you have to be part of the community to make things work. And it's really been working really well on migration, like with the assistants and kind of getting there.
I guess my next question is for those who are on the call who aren't familiar with the areas. How would you distinguish Lake of Bays from the three big lakes in Muskoka?
Lake of Bays is the second largest lake in Muskoka, but not tied to additional lakes. It's a beautiful lake, very clear, deep lake, good quality of water. And then there's the circle of 4 lakes around Huntsville. And that's kind of the focus of the Huntsville office. Mark can speak to
the Port Carling, the Muskoka Lakes. So that really is Bracebridge, you know, the 3 Muskoka Lakes, Joe, Rosso, and Muskoka, and then all the lakes in between. I mean, we did a post on Instagram. I think it was 1,600 lakes in Muskoka. I mean, it's every little, like, there's so many little ones and ponds and things like that, but we're constantly, but mostly
the volume is different.
Yeah.
In the areas. I find that the Muskoka Lakes area, there's more volume. You know, there'll be 120 sales on Lake Muskoka in any given year, and then in Lake of Bays there'll be 30. Rosso and Joe will be about 30 to 40 sales, more on par with Lake of Bays. But the turnover from Muskoka Lakes is a lot higher. Being near that hub of Port Carling seems to be the focus of a lot of buyers.
And the Huntsville Lakes, the 4 Huntsville Lakes, and part of Lake of Bays too, is more of a, it's very much a cottage feel, but it caters more to the year-round person. So somebody that may go to Florida for the winters but want to be part of a town, because Huntsville is 20,000 people. So Believe it or not, that's pretty big in Muskoka.
Just got our Starbucks.
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
this
That-
year.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that'll be year round in the Huntsville area. So it's a little bit different. Whereas Port Carling shuts, middle of October, everything pretty much shuts down there.
Right. No, it's amazing to me. Like I was looking at one of our agents was looking for a client for a high-end rental. I was looking on a company called Jane's Cottages. I think she handles just the 3 big lakes. I may be wrong. She might do Lake of Bays also. And I saw places, one place I saw for $330,000 a month.
Yeah. Wow.
And at least, by the way, it was taken. It wasn't available. It was taken.
Yeah.
I saw places from 218 to 330.
Yeah. And this year rental, we had more emails from clients and other agents just asking, does anybody have anything
because
rentals?
they shut down the Airbnb market for the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Right. The Airbnb, and then you compound it with the fact that, the people who are making travel plans to Europe or kids aren't going to camp. So parents are looking for places to go that's outdoors. So it's interesting.
We just had a client that reached out to us last week, and they said to us, we usually travel a lot, and I come from South France, and we were gonna, but we, I think we're gonna try to find a cottage, and we just had an accepted offer last night actually for $2 million.
Amazing.
Yeah, so there are people that are changing plans.
One of the things I say, and I feel strongly about this, is that the thing I love about Ontario is the experience of being up north. So our son goes to a summer camp on Rosso. So on the weekends, I would go up and pick him up at 5, drop him off at 9, and have that experience. I worked at the Muskoka office actually. And Mark, you and I saw one another actually last summer. And listen, I'm not a world traveler, but I've seen parts of the world, and I keep coming back to the fact that if you look at Ontario, and if you want to look at Muskoka, I consider it maybe the nicest place I've ever been. If you're out on the water, it's very easy to boat on because it's so well marked. The water is beautiful to swim in. It's warm. And the nice part is for people who enjoy boating, you can park your car on a Friday and not get into your car again until Sunday night. Everything is accessible by boat. I don't golf, but if I did, I could go to a golf course. I could go out to, you can go to grocery stores by boat and restaurants and everything. Lake of Bays, I know, of course, Huntsville. Are there other areas accessible, would you say, like golf courses and things like that? You still have that?
Well, Lake of Bays is known for Big One Island, which is a golf
Yes,
course.
of course. I remember that.
And Lake of Bays is a beautiful, crystal clear, deep lake, great fishing, little towns of Baysville, Dorset, Dwight that you can boat into, small marinas, things like that. And being the second biggest lake, it's a pretty big body of water. So you can spend easily a day out on the water there too.
Incredible, incredible. Well, one thing, I think, Jeremy, we're locked down for July 9th, so I look forward to seeing a number of the exciting listings. Do we have questions from the audience before Jeremy and I sort of go through other questions? I can see.
If anyone has a question, you can put it in the chat and I'll flag it for you, or you can raise your hand and we'll take you off mute. Currently, I don't see anything.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, sorry, Eugenia. Eugenia has a question.
Yes, go right ahead. Please. Oh, go
hello.
ahead.
Yes, thank you, Michael, and thank you to John and Mark for being here. I have a cottage on the Lake of Bays, and I would like to find out, because I do obviously know people there, and I want to find out how you guys work with agents from Harvey Kalles. If I were to refer someone to you, because there's people coming and talking about buying or selling.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we're very open. We just did a referral with Anita, and just firmed up a place on Sparrow Lake. So we'd love to work with people from Harvey Kalles, most certainly.
Okay.
So Eugenia, the way the situation as it stands is a traditional industry referral is 25, but the Muskoka agents from both offices, Huntsville and Port Carling, have both offered 30% to Kalles agents. Yeah. And it's the nice part is, I can tell you, saying nothing about the fact that both, both the team of agents are first class, not just in results, but in, in the way they treat your clients. You can have pure confidence in referring your clients to John and Mark and anyone in the Muskoka team. And I can tell you from experience, and you can speak to the people who have done so, tremendous results and experiences for the clients. And again, I go back to the fact that so much of Muskoka is A, product knowledge, and B, knowing things that aren't available. How many times here in Toronto with, we've been before COVID-19, we had 1.2 months supply. How many people have said, oh my God, do you have anything off market? Where you get a call from a client saying, look, I've seen everything on MLS. Don't show me anything on MLS. I only want to know things that aren't on MLS because I have access to MLS through Realtor.ca. Dealing with John and Mark, you're going to be seeing properties and your clients are going to have access to properties that aren't on the MLS. It could be that person who they've known from the printing business or an old family friend who says, look, I'm not putting it on the market, but if you can bring me a buyer that's going to pay me X, I'll sell. But I'm not interested in people coming through the home, etc. Your clients are going to have access to that. So, I think that's one of the most important messages is client experience. And that's why, through our referral networks, we have that in other cities. Now we're fortunate enough and privileged enough to have it in these massively, incredibly beautiful areas like Lake of Bays and Muskoka. Jeremy, I see that there's a few chats. Any questions there?
Sorry. So, Anita just wanted to, share with everyone what a great experience it was working with the Abens. So that's, a great endorsement. We don't have any other questions, but if you don't mind, I'll ask a couple.
Please do. Please do, Jeremy.
I'm really interested in how COVID is shaping the market there. Are you finding that there's been a lot of upward pressure on prices? Are people just, is it multiple opportunities having people listing?
So we're definitely seeing the effects of COVID. Although, early stages, late March, Mark and I were a little bit nervous. We cut some expenses because we have a fair amount of expenses running this team, but it quickly turned around. So what we found was a lot of people wanted to get out of the city. They wanted to buy waterfront properties. I found that we're still about close to 20% less new properties coming onto market. So that's that, and the buyers wanting to be up here and buying has driven up the prices a little bit, not substantially. I think it's around 3-4%. June is looking really good. June has got, we're up to 71 sales for cottage properties, and last year June was 75. So we're going to easily break last year's June. So I suspect things are just keep continuing going that trend.
Yeah, we'll struggle a little bit with inventory. I think that'll continue. There's just there's a number of listings that people just want to hold on to them, maybe enjoy the summer one more time because they don't have, they just want to, maybe they're from the city and they want to stay at the cottage for a summer. But so we'll work on that. That'll be a constant.
Fewer properties coming on, and the residential market's pretty good too.
Yeah. One of the things I've heard, and then Jeremy, I'll pass the floor back to you. One of the things I've heard a lot of from brokerages here in Central Toronto is, and I was just on a call just before this one, is the word sanctuary. And I think what people are finding is at a premium is sanctuary. So one of the people on the last call I was on, they said, a number of my friends have moved to condos, and boy, they wish they kept that home in the city with a yard and an ability to walk on the streets without having to be one person elevator and take 30 minutes up and down.
Yeah.
And I think the other element that's going to be really pushing cottage country up is that if companies like Shopify and Facebook, the big tech companies, and you're hearing from law firms and accountancy firms, a friend of mine just had a full audit without ever going into the office. So I guess the question is, there's people are going to be working remotely. So I guess the question is, if you're able to work remotely, wouldn't it be beautiful to be able to be looking out on a lake at night, even in the winter? I mean this.
I love the winters here.
Right, and as do I. It's spectacular. So I think what we're going to find is people are looking for that word sanctuary, and that's really an ability to get out of the city. And as one of the employers who I was on the phone with, they said, "Look, your employee wakes up and they start working."
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no,
and again, I mean, speaking to the knowledge in the area, there are pockets where you're going to be using ExploreNet satellite and not getting good service whatsoever. So there is a push to put fiber through a lot of Muskoka in the rural areas, but it's not there yet. So there are pockets where you're going to be hindered on the internet, but other pockets where you'll be just fine to be able to.
how does it work currently? Like on the big lakes, let's say, on the not the big lakes, the two connected lakes without the lock, Rosso and Joe.
Yeah.
Do most people have decent internet on their cottage property?
Yeah, most people have enough internet to get by. There'd be a limit to, how many kids can stream at one time, but it'd be a lot of line of sight to towers, cell phone hubs, that type of thing.
Cell service is pretty good for the most part over there. So
Right.
you can get away with a lot with your cell phone these days. But
Got it.
We were asked that question probably, 9 times out of 10. What's the internet like here? I have to be able to work from home, and we get that more and more. And I think you're right, Michael. There's just going to be more of a push to get better internet, and people will be working from home more and more.
yeah, they'll tell us they need to do Zoom calls, and can we do Zoom calls, and probably get more and more testing.
Yeah.
And are you able, like, I mean,
the home inspection.
Yeah.
well, exactly. But from cottages, Mark, your experience when you're on Rosso or Joe, when you're in a cottage, you wanted to run a Zoom call, would that be possible with the bandwidth that you've got there? Yeah, you've got that. You just want to make sure your kids aren't at the same time, playing Fortnite.
We do a lot of showings that way as well now. We're doing FaceTime or Zoom calls, or just to give clients a good appreciation of the property prior to coming up and wasting their time, because it's valuable, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll run out and we'll do these these video tours of these homes, and it's working out really well.
Absolutely. Jeremy, do you have other questions before?
Yeah, we've got a number actually in the key
Go
now.
ahead.
Veronica Key would like to know just ballpark price points. What's the lowest you can get into your market at, and what's the highest?
Good question. I mean, so smaller, medium-sized lake, you're probably 500, 450, 500 right now for entry level 3-season type cottage. There have been a number that have come up and they disappeared same day, next day lately. And then to get on to, the Huntsville Lakes, your 700, 800 Lake Bays, around one Muskoka, to get anything, you're $1 million pretty easy, 1.2, 1.5.
Average price
doesn't
on
get you too much.
Lake Muskoka is around 1.6, 1.7, somewhere around there, I think. And
And
the
then
average on Lake of Bays is 1.2, somewhere around there.
And then Joe and Rosso are the sky's the limit pretty much on those properties. But to get onto them,
For 500,000, you can, but they're hard to find and they go very quickly. So
the
it is
smaller
tricky.
lakes.
Yeah, and we're talking waterfront only here. Obviously, we're not
Right.
talking residential with any of this. Then, yeah,
Absolutely.
And it wasn't long ago, it was 3-4 years ago, you could get a nice little cottage for 250, 300 just north of Huntsville on a nice little medium-sized lake, and those are 450, 500 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doubling in a few years. Incredible.
Yeah.
residentially, you're about the average sale price in the towns is around 420.
420.
Say 400 mark.
Yeah.
Right.
If you get a new built home for
six something.
Yeah,
Early
high
low
fives,
sixes.
low sixes.
Right. Jeremy, any other questions from the queue?
Diane Litchin would like to know, do you handle rentals as well?
Don't get into rentals too much. Occasionally, if there's a certain client that we may, try and help facilitate something, if we can connect people together, but we don't really get into the rentals. There's a number of really good companies that do it as a profession. So they kind of,
Michael mentioned Jane's Cottages,
Yeah.
but there's a plethora of those companies doing that type of business. We do have some clients that, they'll say to us that, if you can find somebody to rent this, that's great. But most of them are in Airbnb and things like that as well. So.
Got it.
Good clients of friends of mine bought on a smaller lake by Lake of Bays 2 years ago, just as an investment, and they rented out. So they went on Airbnb. The first year they kept the price relatively low to get all the ratings up and everything else. And then they're just fully booked. Like it happens. So a lot of people do Airbnb, people that are, more hands-on, or we help we know the rental market as far as, where, everything pretty much rents.
Well, we get involved. A lot of people buy and want to rent, and The other thing that you got to watch for is Huntsville is going to start taxing Airbnbs. So we're going to probably see more and more of that happening. I don't know what
Yeah,
the
it might be a
percentage,
bit
what
of
the
a
rate
ripple
is, but
effect.
yeah,
Yeah.
it might be a bit of a ripple effect for sure.
Yeah, I see a question here about Deerhurst opening. I know that I got an email that the Marriott on Rosso opened. They certainly have heavy protocols, but I know they open. That's a good sign. And they have outdoor balcony eating, and they also have room service and a number of other protocols. Has Deerhurst opened yet?
And Mark had dinner there 2 nights ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
That was nice.
very well spaced out. Very.
Yeah, I heard the same. I heard the same. Has Deerhurst opened? Did you say you were at Deerhurst or you were at the Rosso? Deerhurst is open too. Excellent. Okay, good. That's a great sign.
Mark was at the Rosso 2 nights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shortly.
Middle child just turned.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we've got Jeremy. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry, I got distracted at one point, so I apologize if this was answered. But every time that I go up to Muskoka, I learn something that I would never be exposed to or know in the city of Toronto. And I was just wondering if there's a few things, like, as an example, rights of ways where people, can walk right across your shoreline, for example, or you can't build a boathouse if there isn't a boathouse. I mean, are there a few things that you can just share with Toronto audiences that you really should be aware of that you probably wouldn't know as a city agent?
Yeah, good. I mean, good points. There's definitely a lot of things that could come up. There are some grandfathered in right of ways for pedestrian if there was properties and families and then they sell them or split them up in the past. And one property may have we have a listing now, they have an 11-foot right of way down the side of the property to go into water. Boathouses, there's different municipalities, Lake of Bays, Huntsville, Bracebridge, Gravenhurst, Muskoka Lakes, Seguin. They all have slightly different rules, but similar, but certain places, you're not allowed boathouses on certain lakes. You're allowed to build 2-story boathouses in Muskoka Lakes, but not in Lake of Bays. A lot of that type of thing going on. So that certainly comes into
There's
play.
been a bit more of a push for the shore road allowance to be purchased. The townships and towns are getting a bit more proactive and see the income potential from telling people that they can purchase these shore road allowances. And that usually gets initiated when somebody goes for a permit. They want to do something on their shoreline. They say, sure, we'll let you do that, but
Buy it.
we want you to pay $1 whatever per square foot for the land exposed. You don't pay for the land under the water. And it's different in each area too, what that fee is that you pay.
And there's one township that you have to enter into a lease of occupation or purchase it on the closing of a property. So there are little ins and outs like that pop up that if you don't make your buyer aware of it before they're buying and it comes up during the conditional period, it just, or worse, after a conditional period when it firms up, it's easy to explain it all beforehand, but after the fact, it can mess things up quite a bit.
Absolutely, and I think that's a perfect segue to sort of come up with my closing comments. I'd like to sort of have my closing comments, and I want to thank you. But my closing comments are, it's interesting. So much of what we spoke about today is talking about the beauty of acquiring a Muskoka property, whether it's in Deerhurst or on the big lakes, or I keep calling the big lakes the connected lakes, Joe and Rosso or Muskoka. But there's also the element of what you have to know. Just the boathouses. Every area has their own rules, where you can build a 2-story, where you can't. And I think, I always say this. There's a great quote from a Clint Eastwood movie. It said, "Every person must know their own limitations." And we're great in Toronto at selling Toronto properties. We really are. That's what we've been doing for 63 years, and our team is built and directed towards that. But you can hear the people on this call and people who listen to the recording later, you can hear all of the things that you have to watch out for when you're buying lakefront property. There are so many things. We've probably listed 10, and there's probably 40. And the problem is if you are a Toronto agent and you handle this yourself and you get into a corner and the conditional period expires and you don't know what it is that you don't know, you're not just going to lose a client for life, you're going to lose your reputation, and it's going to be tarnished, and it's going to affect the company and yourself. So do refer. I'm looking forward to July 9th when we're going to see some really exciting properties on our Muskoka tour. I wanted to thank Jeremy for arranging it. And I also wanted to thank the boys, Mark and John, for taking the time. we're so proud to have you guys as
I
part
would
of the
love
Harvey
to be
Kalles
part of
family.
this, Michael. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's been a real pleasure for us
You
to.
know,
Yeah.
and we feel the same way. I mean, it's so nice to go to bed at night and know that your brand, your reputation, your last name is being held to such high esteem, and it's thanks to you guys. We really appreciate it. You're tremendous performers, but you're also tremendous guys. So really appreciate it. And thank you again for taking the time to be here today. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the weekend, and thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.